What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 178 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about another Aquaman book. This is Aquaman, the Waterbearer. This is written by Rick Veidt with pencils by several different guys. The only one here that I am familiar with is Norm Breyfogle, who had a fairly well-known run drawing Batman comics in the 80s. But there's several other guys here. I'm going to attempt to pronounce their names. We have Yoel Gulchet, Joshua Hood, Dietrich Smith, Mark Probst, Dennis Yonk, and Sean Parsons. So a whole lot of artists working on this book, and this is a reworking of the Aquaman status quo, kind of just rebuilding everything from the ground up. I talked a little bit yesterday about how Aquaman Time and Tide was a reconstruction of the character of Aquaman, trying to prove to naysayers that Aquaman really is a cool character and he's not just a joke. This is kind of a reconstruction of the status quo and the world of Aquaman. Basically, this is saying, okay, you already know that the character of Aquaman is cool. Now we're going to take everything else about him, his supporting cast, his setting, all of that stuff, the villains that he fights, and we're going to radically change all of it or just get rid of it and introduce something brand new. And a lot of this is spinning out of some of the really big events that were happening in the Justice League comic around this time. Tempest, who was the former Aquaman, he used his magic to teleport Atlantis thousands and thousands of years into the past in the Our Worlds at War storyline, and then that kind of had some ramifications in the Justice League book, where we find out that this ancient Atlantean sorceress, Gamne, I don't know how to pronounce her name, this was in the Obsidian Age storyline by Joe Kelly. She had enslaved all of Atlantis, and then, long story short, Atlantis gets brought back into the present day, but then everyone in Atlantis, they blame Arthur for this. They say that it's somehow his fault that all this bad stuff is happening, and so Mera, she becomes the new ruler of Atlantis, and Aquaman is exiled onto dry land, and he is not allowed in the ocean. Every time he tries to go back into the ocean, these soldiers, they stop him, and I believe his ability to talk to fish and command fish has been taken away. So when he tries to go into the ocean, that kind of tries to bite him in the butt also. So we get to see a restructuring and a reworking of Aquaman's status quo, where he has to find and build a new life for himself on the surface world. And I really like this a lot. This is where we get Aquaman gets rid of his harpoon hand that he had for a while in the 90s, and then he gets the water hand, which you can see right there. It's right there. That's his water hand. There you go. And he gets this from the Lady of the Lake from King Arthur comics. Or not King Arthur comics, wow. The King Arthur mythology. The previous King Arthur, not King Arthur of Atlantis, but the King Arthur. And I really like the idea of trying to turn this Arthur into a little bit of an echo of that Arthur. I think that's kind of cool, and I like the idea of trying to create a new status quo for Arthur. I'm wondering if maybe they were obviously trying to springboard off of the events of some of these stories like Our Worlds at War and the Obsidian Age, but I feel like maybe the writers and creators at DC at this time were getting a little bit bored with Arthur as the king of Atlantis, and everyone likes him, and he's got a family, and he has a pretty happy life. I wonder if everyone was just getting bored with that, and so they were using this opportunity to bounce off of all of that and create something new. Unfortunately, this didn't last very long. If you look at all the trade paperbacks that exist for Aquaman, we didn't get a follow-up to this. We don't get to see how he goes from this to his next status quo, but personally, I like this quite a bit. Then again, I'm an Aquaman fan, so even if you take him out of Atlantis and take him away from his supporting cast, I'm still going to be interested in what you're going to try to do with him. But I really like the idea of taking him away from being a king of Atlantis and having him try to rebuild his life. Again, I talked about in Time and Tide, my review of that book, that identity is very important for Aquaman, since he is a child of the ocean and a child of the surface world. And this book is basically saying, okay, now he's no longer a child of the ocean. He's just a child of the surface world, and he's going to have to try and make that work. I really like this book a lot. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning of a long run on Aquaman, and we don't get the rest of that run in trade paperback, but I like this quite a bit. If you're interested in seeing Aquaman continue to try and build his identity and search for what his identity is, which we got to see a little bit of that in Time and Tide, then you should definitely check out The Waterbearer. I think this is a pretty awesome book. I liked it quite a bit, so I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be doing another video tomorrow. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.